Hey everybody, here we are. We are live today, and welcome to a new episode of our pub, right? So, the Happy PG Hour. Today we have Euler Taveira here as a guest. We have Fabrizio, Mello, and with me we have the Fetter, and we are going to talk about what is just released yesterday. It's just still warm, still hot from the oven, the PG-17, right? So, and I hope you guys have prepared to talk about that. So you know I'm gonna ask you your favorite things, and so without more further ado, let's start it. So, who do you guys would like to start with? Do you want to play around? So, should I name one, or should we start with the developers guide, right?
I think you should start with Euler because
Yeah.
he is part of the major improvement for PG-17,
All
and it
right,
will be
that's a good
nice
idea.
if Euler can talk a little bit about his work on Create Subscriber tool. That is a really nice improvement for Postgres.
Yeah, I think we can start checking some of the major features. I think Fabrizio mentioned it to me, and we can talk a little bit about what are the major features for 17. And as Fabrizio said, one of the main major features for 17 that was highlighted was a feature that I worked on. That's a tool called PG Create Subscriber. Basically, it's one of the things that's missing for logical replication. So we have been improving logical replication over the years. And as some of you know, uh, there are previous project that was the base for logical replication that we called PG Logical version 2.
Mhm.
And one of the features that PG Logical 2 has is a tool that does exactly what PG Create Subscriber does. That's basically convert a physical replica into a logical replica. So the main question is, why do you need it? So basically, this tool helps in cases where you have big databases. And if you try to create a logical replica with a big database, you probably will face some uh, challenge. And one of them, and the main one, is related to the time to create the replica. So, and not to mention the storage part too, because uh, depending on your workload, you can have a, a, a big backlog to apply, mainly if you have a lot of big tables.
Mhm.
So that's the main use case for it.
So, and that definitely gonna help people work, as you mentioned, working on the upgrade version, right? Because there are a lot of large tables out there, and people are postponing to upgrade for newer versions because sometimes you just need to stop your database. Can you imagine, like, you upgrade like hundreds of terabytes and using logical replication on the old-fashioned way we use it to do? It could take like weeks, months to upgrade the database, right? Or it just might never.
Yeah,
Yeah, might never catch up.
and
Mm.
there is another cool feature for 17. It's in the same area that's related to the logical replication slots,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the main features for 17 is a way to uh, also while upgrading, you keep the logical replication slots, because uh, until 16 we can't keep them. We have to recreate the logical replicas. So right now we can upgrade, starting from 17, of course. You can upgrade and keep the logical replication slots. So it will be a huge feature for those people that use a lot logical replication.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially for people that use CDC, right? Use data transformation directly from the database, right? Sometimes the tooling, especially like Kafka, for example, it just get lost, and it's a really painful to find out where it was lost, and then sometimes you get the duplicated data, or we lose data on the way. Yeah, no, I think that's a really cool feature.
Yeah, it's a huge improvement for 17.
Nice.
Yeah, and also in the same area, we are now able to fail over logical slots. That is really, really important. In the same area for upgrading, think about to have a cluster, a high availability cluster, and you add a new node has a logical in the next version, and then now starting on 17, you'll be able to fail over or switch over to the new version, because all of this machinery to copy and keep the logical replication slots. So this is a feature that actually Patroni have implemented, but Patroni does a lot of tricks to make it work properly.
Yeah. You delegate to Patroni a lot of the things that Postgres normally thinks it holds on its own.
Yes.
In doing this, you maybe are violating some assumptions that you thought held when Postgres holds on to those things. So it's kind of nice to bring it back into a place where the same invariants are not varying.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's cool to see how the improvements have been done on Postgres for logical application, right? So if you look on the database on the version 13, I would say we had good improvements on 12, but I think that from 12 to version 13 we had a huge we got started a huge improvement, right? So on the previous version on the 16, adding the possibility to have logical applications from a replica as well. And that was a major change in the game, because now we could have cascading logical replication, which was not possible until then, right? And now we have the next step, so like failing the logical replication, right? So if you could have cascading logical replication, you can have the whole environment on that grade, or even on the CDC, that if the primary fails, so you don't need that whole machinery from Charly, for example, you can have on the database, right? So it's there already.
Yeah.
So I think the steps that Postgres is taking, the development is taking on the logical application, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. So I haven't worked on it enough recently to understand how close we are to being able to duplicate the kinds of things that Sloaney used to do. Move the right node around, this sort of thing. Are we anywhere close to that sort of capability?
I guess nowadays we are more close than before, but yeah,
it's fine. It's
nowadays it should be part of your operation during
sure
your upgrade strategy. I mean,
yeah,
there are a lot of manual work, even automated by Ansible or tools like that, but still we need to take care of a lot of stuff in our production workload for real use cases.
Sure, of course. My hope is to be able to make logical replicas be able to catch up a lot faster than they currently can, because while we still depend on a physical replica, there's things that we simply cannot do about our on storage formats, like that heap format that we so love. It maybe needs to have some upgrades, and we can't really do much major with it until we can decouple replication from the binary wall.
Fair enough.
And on that same discussion, I think another evolution that we need to do is start also replicating the data structure, right? So the objects itself, because as of today, the logic replication, it's very simplistic. We basically basically have a trigger there that replicate the chains, right? So I think until we really have decoupled the replication from the wall stream, so in the logical way, right? So not physical. That would be also another major milestone. A lot of other things that we cannot do today, like for example, having two different data stores, database on completely different hardware, or even OS. It's not possible to do today with physical application. We have all sort of problems, right? So when start mixing those things, not to say if we try to use different data store, if we have an implementation like from the people from I think Neon they're doing, it would be really painful. So do you think we're gonna have anything soon on that one? Like start with DDL, like simple DDL, create table on the logical application?
I think there are people working on this.
We have some discussions in previous conference, including the Postgres developer conference this year. But there are a lot of challenges with DDL. We have some people that tried to do it. I remember an old patch from Alvaro that just deparses the DDL. And I think it will be the base for an implementation. And there are some people that tried last year, but we don't see much progress on this area. So there are a lot of questions about it. Of course, I think the main point is that there are some classes of DDL that needs to be forbidden,
Right.
or and also have a different way to be applied. So that these corner cases complicate things, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think also working on the time domain, right? So the synchronization between them would be very problematic, right? So to keep to guarantee correct order on the larger application for them might be a huge problem, right? Because let's say if you have a great table and if we mess up with the audit for whatever reason and it goes after the inserts, something that may not happen, it's just a silly example, that would likely be a very problematic thing to deal with.
Right. Yeah. Since you don't guarantee that you are using the same schema, both sides, you have all sorts of complications.
Yeah. Makes sense. So Fabrizio, moving on, what is your favorite feature for 17?
My favorite feature.
Yeah.
There are a lot
Cannot be large
cool-
application, you know.
Yeah, one thing that I like it on the the seventh thing is the ability to create the event trigger on login. This is a really cool feature. If you want to do some logging, some auditory, or whatever, then now you have an event trigger on login. When you authenticate and you connect to the database, you can create an event trigger there. It's still missing an event trigger when we disconnect, but it's not perfect. So you can. This is a really cool feature. Also, the new utilities for backups, for
incremental ones.
Incremental one. Yeah, this is
incremental backups people have been harassing me about it for decades. I'm sure you guys this is true for you also.
Exactly. Yeah. So this actually is very, very, very good feature, and as David said, it's a long waiting feature to be in core of Postgres, and I guess the way that it was implemented is cool because we can do PG-based backup using these features, and also it will help third-party tools to improve their strategy for incremental backups as well. So it's a really, really nice improvement. I mean, it's starting now. It's the beginning of this new era for backup, and I'm pretty sure that in next release we'll see maybe parallel physical backups using PG-based backups, because this is other feature that miss in core. Even the differential backups, it's something that for production workloads is very important, because you have a full backup, an incremental, and also a differential backup in your strategy. So this should be a very promising feature for.
I think that that's very important, and definitely it's a step moving forward, right? And as you mentioned, I think for a good strategy on disaster recovery, also having differential backup would be very, very important, because can you imagine you have incremental backups, like you have a full backup on the weekend, let's say on Sunday, and then you have incremental backups every day. So, and you have a problem on Friday. You have a problem on Friday that you need to recover the backups, and then you realize that your backup on Tuesday is broken.
Exactly. Yeah.
So all your chain, like from after Tuesday, like from Wednesday to Friday, now it's completely lost, right? So I wouldn't say completely lost. You may be able to still get some data and do some black magic, but that's a problem. So when having a differential backup, we can have them both like on top of the same physical backups, right? So we can send them for different media, right? So we can have cheaper medias for differential ones, because they're gonna grow over time, and they are also faster, right, to recover. If you have, let's say, the same example, so a chain of 7 backups, if you need to recover them all on the last day, so you go for the full backup, and then differential, day 1, day 2, day 3, up to them.
Yeah,
it can get very slow, and but definitely is something that's it's important to have. We're moving forward, right? I also really like that one. And on the feature that you mentioned about the login, one discussion that I don't remember if people came back to the same discussion, was about the proxy protocol. You remember that was a discussion on the proxy protocol, because what is the problem today? Let's say you have your production database behind PG Monster, right? So all the connections that come to your database, it's going to come to PG Monster, right? So that the database doesn't know. Obviously, there are workarounds you can put on the connection string, the IP. That's silly, right? So if Postgres was able to understand the proxy protocol, so we could have pgbounce or whatever other proxy sending this information, and we could even have the PGHPA to treat this information, right? So if the connection comes from a host that's not allowed to connect to the database, that would be, I think that would complement the feature on the trigger on the load. I think that would be also good as well.
B.
Yeah. All right. So David, it seems it's your turn.
So I confess I haven't been around very much for a while. So what I've mostly been fascinated to see is more contributors. This is, in some sense, the most important thing that we need to get, because as we have contributors join, we also have contributors eventually leave. In the worst case, by by death. But what we want is new people coming in, and I think we've done a pretty good job of actually making that happen. This is
Yeah, I think we are improving the ecosystem, and we also improving the tools, improving the instructions to help newbies to start with Postgres. And what I've been checking is that during the conferences we have some discussion with newbies or newcomers that want to contribute to Postgres but don't know how to start. So, for example, this year in pgconf.br, we have some interesting sections before the conference, before the talks, that we have small groups of people discussing features and how to contribute, and in what sense a certain patch was not included, and how to improve the communication between the committers, the reviewers, and all of the people involved in the development. So it was an interesting section this year. It means that the people uh, are aware of the challenge of it.
Yeah, this is a very, very good initiative to be more welcome for new contributors.
Yeah.
I think this is the key. I mean, we need to be more welcome to new contributors. How? Well, how? There are a lot of ways to do this, right? But having this in mind to be more welcome to new contributors, I mean, we need to think about the community a way to not refresh the community, but guarantee that you have a long life.
Yeah.
Think about long term, because eventually people that are working more than 20 years now, eventually you retire, right? Because this is how life works.
Sure.
And new people are coming, and Postgres is here for more than 30 years, and the way that the things are moving, we still for more 30 years, I guess, at least. And then we need to think about in the long term for the community to have new contributors, new people, and moving the community.
That's definitely something very important, and a discussion that we need to keep open, right? And I believe that the conferences, they're really good to helping people to get together and understand each other, right? So especially in the community side, sometimes when we are on a mailing discussion or massive discussion and texting people, you don't know how the people on the other side is feeling. at that moment. Maybe you send a message that for you think it's okay, just a normal fine message, but the other person just had a personal problem and sees that message or in a different context, But when you meet in person, you see, you put faces on the names. You go together for a dinner, you talk together, and it's different.
Yeah, this is a thing where I think we need to come up with a lot more resources to make this happen. I don't know how we're going to do this. It's just that I was watching one of the funding mailing lists turn people down left, right, and center because they didn't think it was their business to ship somebody else's employee. I forget what all it happens frequently enough that we have a bunch of people kind of try to join as like a hacker and bounce off because they can't get to their first conference.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. We want to welcome the newcomers in a way that they are comfortable, keep contributing to Postgres.
Yep.
So that's a huge challenge. And saying more about that, we also have discussion about cultural differences. I think that's a huge topic, but communication is difficult because you have cultural differences, and you need to know how to discuss some topic with someone else, because you are writing an email, you are not in the same room discussing with people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes the tone seems to be different depending on you are talking to an American or a Japanese or a French guy. So that's something that we need to learn and also discuss how to improve.
Yeah, that's definitely very important. And as we're saying, conferences are really big part of this improvement, right? So, and like those PGConfs that we have, PGConf New York, PGConf Brazil, now the PGConf for Europe that's gonna be next, and the PGConf San Jose. So when we start getting those people, it's very important. But for the other hand, they don't come for free, right? So how can we keep this environment sustainable, right? So I think that's another challenge. And in that sense, making a merchan for PGConf Brazil that's going to happen in November 7 and 8. So I really would like to thank the companies that are going to sponsor PGConf Brazil, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do PGConf Brazil, right? So we have Fabrizio here from Timbira, so which is one of our silver sponsors, right? So we really would like to thank you, and Timbira, obviously. So I'd like to thank you, Fujitsu. Fujitsu is a gold sponsor this year, right? So it's a big thing for us having all of those sponsors together, right? So we know that especially after the pandemic, the world is shifted. It's crazy, right? So, and we also have like for Linux, Aqua Soffit, SavePoint, Virt Labs, Power Tuning, Red Set. So all sponsors that we have for this year, and obviously the university, the PUC university that is offering us the space, right?
Okay.
Without them, we wouldn't be able to do those things. Right? So, yeah. No, this year going to be in Belo Horizonte. PUC, they have, I think in a lot of states, right? They have in Rio Grande do Sul, they have in São
Yes.
Paulo,
Mhm.
in Minas Gerais. I think they have in Tocantins as well, right? I'm not sure.
No, not
No,
yet.
okay.
But
You should convince them to open one that.
yeah, I'm discussing with some people to have an event soon.
Yeah. But to the to the larger point, I think it's good to have sort of local events that more can happen in, because if everybody needs to go to Canada once a year, that is fundamentally an unscalable process.
Exactly.
Right? Like, and it doesn't matter what part of Canada, and it doesn't matter which country you pick, and it doesn't matter if you move it around. We just have to have a little bit more autonomy in order to get things done that are not just at this big bang, everybody gets together once a year kind of conference. Like, stuff has to be able to move in between then.
Yeah, we need to decentralize, right? Because, or else, we wouldn't be able to scale much. But I think we've been working a lot, so it has been improved a lot across the years. And we realized, especially after the pandemic, right? So we need to change. Right?
And I think we have been changing. There used to be just this one thing in Canada, and it was very nice to go to Canada, and that was great. Then there was conferences in Brazil and in kind of moving around Western Europe anyway. And there'd been one in Japan that unfortunately didn't get the kind of play that it should have. Didn't get the exposure outside Japan that it really should have, because there was a lot happening there.
And India too.
Yeah, India.
Yes, India is huge. Pakistan, for those who for those who live there, and there's a lot of us.
Yeah, and that's true. That's another point. Like, given the visibility that we deserve, right? So it's not that we don't have them happening there, but a lot of them, they just don't have the visibility. Like, especially countries like Japan, China, they also they have a huge conference, that Postgres conference, that China. But we just don't have the visibility outside of the country. We need to work on those things, make those things better.
Right, but I mean, we have many of the components we need. We have the communities distributed. There's already people there on the ground to do the things, ready to do the things, happy to do the things. It's just a matter of, well, I shouldn't say just, but the task ahead is making sure everybody can hear about each other without necessarily always having to have everybody together at once.
Yeah. How to do that? Well, that's the challenge.
Yeah, that is the work to be done.
We need more business people in Postgres, because that sounds like a business task. How many DBAs we need to do that, Fabrizio?
I guess we don't have enough DBAs to do that.
we are trying, before you join, we are just trying to set up a microphone here, and we gave up.
But we gave up. But wait. We had a working audio video system on time. I'm gonna say we won.
Yeah. It's definitely a win. It's working, right?
So there are another cool feature added to 17 regarding the copy command, that now you can set a flag on error that you ignore, that can ignore failed rows. Think about, you have a large batch of data to copy, and one single tuple fail. Nowadays, the entire batch fails, right? And then you have this nice flag that you can ignore the tuples that rise an error. And it's really cool for people that are doing some kind of ETL or data lake or whatever using copy command. So it's really cool. And also there are a lot of small features that are also great. Think about the I was looking around into the list of the features, and for example, where are these? The parallel for creating index now is supported for bring index, and incremental sort for gist and SP gist. That is really cool. And also another feature that actually interests to me because my work on timescale DB is the new improvements on merge command, because I use merge command on the incremental refresh of our continuous aggregate, and then we can have this new when not matched by source, that when some row don't match, have in the right side and don't have in the left side, I can do some action on the right side. So it's really cool because there's no way to do this with the previous merge until now, though. And with one single command, I can really combine two data sets now, doing the full merge, and will be really cool.
I also saw some improvements on the goodness, I forgot now. On the partitioning tables, right? So there are really nice improvements on them. I saw that now it's possible to have keys there, right? So on partition tables, what is quite nice. It's especially that when you have a distributed workload, right? So you want to have some guarantees. And before it was always workarounds that people needed to do, especially from the application side. Now things are starting moving. I think that was also a really nice feature that I saw on 17.
Yes, and moving forward, we have another cool feature that was postponed to 17 because we don't have enough time. And I was following this feature, and that's the JSON table. So it's a cool feature that is in the SQL standard, and basically what it does is that it converts JSON data to a table representation. So we have lots of scenarios that we desire this feature. And now we have a standard syntax for it, and it's implemented in Postgres. And that's really cool. And of course, we have other constructors and new functions from the SQL JSON that was implemented too. So we are moving forward in this JSON part. So what do you guys think about it?
Well, JSON is it ate the world while we weren't watching. And so now it's really great that we can now use this because I don't know how many people remember XML. Most people are trying to forget it. It was a serialization so heavy that nobody could really use it, right? And if one person managed to get to use it, they could never communicate with somebody else. JSON, for its many flaws, is not this way. So being able to integrate that tightly into the database, that seems like a very useful thing to be able to do.
Yeah, it's really cool that we have now the JSON standard on Postgres. Also, another small feature that was added and is very, very important, especially for DBAs, it's the transaction timeout hook. Because we have a statement timeout that if when a given statement take longer than this configuration, then we cancel. We have idle in transaction timeout, idle in transaction session timeout, actually. Then the timeout on idle in transaction. Now we can restrict the amount of time of transactions If your transaction take longer this timeout, we cancel the transaction. So it's really cool and very useful for.
Yes, it
some
really it makes it possible to have a reasonable approach to switching nodes to promoting things.
Oh, yeah.
Where until we had ways to restrict all of those things, we just can't do it. Somebody's going to have a long running something, and now it's going to look like an outage when we cut it off.
Yeah, and also prevent long-running transactions when you are not able to. I mean, think about a long-running transaction that is a lot of small statements inside the transaction. Think a process that you open a transaction and take hours to finish, and you can have a lot of side effects on vacuum, or XID. A lot of these things, and especially in OLTP world, depending on your concurrency, it's awful. You can prevent a lot of problems having this timeout by transaction and not by statement. So
Yeah, but now you need to be careful when you're using the new features of the copy, right? Because if you have a long running copy and you put the transaction timeout after the copy, so it doesn't matter if your copy can proceed with after an error, so you're gonna be kicked out of the database.
yeah, fortunately, those gucks you can set up during your session or by user or by database. So we have we always have a way to circumvent such kind of scenarios, right?
Yeah, that was another feature that may seem small, but I think has got lots of potential, which is permissions on gucks. Because I hope none of you has had to experience this, but sometimes somebody will do something clever and they'll set a guck on a statement and then somehow they won't remember quite to clean it up.
Yeah.
And hilarity can spill out from there in ways that are kind of subtle and not easy to track. And so it's nice to have the ability to say, well, let's work out a different way to fix this and not change the guck.
Yeah, sure. This is very important, and yeah, we need to rely on extensions like no set extension or whitelist extension. Such kind of weird ways to try to circumvent this on production workloads. But if a user decided to connect to the database using super user, there's nothing that we can do.
Well, about this we could do very little. It's
if you give the power to the user to do so, you have to live with that, right? So
yeah.
as Ben as Uncle Ben used to say, with
Colbert.
big power, big responsibility.
Yes.
So another thing that seems to be really minor, usually people do not pay attention to this, is about huge pages. So they have a new status on the huge pages be using or not, right? So I've seen a lot of low performance tests that people trying to use huge pages, and they actually not being able to do so because a lot of people do not really understand how those things work and how they can impact the database, right? And in many cases, people are trying to use huge pages. They just change their configuration to try on Postgres because they didn't want to make the database crash if the database was not able to allocate the whole pool of huge pages. And at the end, the database was not really just not using because it was not able to. And Postgres just gave up and it started up. Now you have a way to know if the database is actually using it or not. And stop blaming the feature that's, it's not being there. Right? So I think that's something very important, especially for some cases when you have like hundreds of gigabytes of memory and I've seen databases with a few terabytes of memory, so it's very expensive to not use huge base in those databases.
Yeah, and we have another highlight that I want to talk about. That's the vacuum improvements. So it's always important to have vacuum improvements. And in this release, we have important things that was done in the vacuum area. For example, right now, vacuum can store tuples more efficiently um, because the internal data structure was changed and we improved this area. We also improve the way that previously the maintenance work mem and auto vacuum work mem was limited to 1 GB of mem. Even if I say something that I want more memory for it. So it was a huge improvement. And we also improve the way that we deal with while removing and freezing tuples. Right now, we reduce the wall traffic caused by wall. So I think those changes, of course, there are other changes related to vacuum in this release, but I think those changes was huge because we can reduce the resources while executing vacuum.
Yeah, indeed. I I know a lot of people that are dreaming for the day we don't need vacuum anymore.
Well, I think at some point there has to be some way to clean up. You decide in some sense when you're going to clean up, but not whether. Uh, but I think there are ways to make vacuum maybe a little less fragile. So right now, if a vacuum fails, you have lost all the work you did. Right now, we're working on a thing that we hope will make it possible to at least not lose the work you did if it gets cut off. There's and maybe there's maybe there's a way to find clever ways to find the spaces in pages so that we can do something that looks a little bit more like what vacuum full does, only not have to incur this sort of penalty. So do better compactions than we do right now.
Or maybe have more TAMs, table access methods, that reduces the vacuum, or even you don't need vacuum for some workloads.
Right.
That's an area that we need to move forward. At EDB, we have some projects that's creating some TAMs and experimenting with various workloads. So, but I remember we have a discussion about it. But I think the main point right now is to abstract the API in a way that you can use a lot of TAMs. So there are some points in the API that's heavily based in the way that we have heap right now. So I think other people that experimented with TAM has some discussion about it, but it's hard to have an agreement, mainly because people that provide some TAMs has proprietary code, and it's really hard to sell your idea based on something that you can't check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. I saw a few discussions there. I think there was one proposal from Ion, right, about changing some changes on the API, and then it just got lost. And I think there's a mail from a letter from Microsoft I think, a couple of days ago, trying to bring the discussion back, but I didn't see much discussion on that one. But yeah, we definitely need to do the API, because the API today is very coupled to using what we already have,
The heap storage.
yeah, the heap storage, exactly. And it's when we diverge from what we use on the heap today, we have also a problem using for the storage methods. And yeah, and as you mentioned, if we have a better API, we can definitely have a totally different storage types that we don't need vacuum at all, right? So that can store, can use redo logs or undo logs, or whatever approach people would like to use, that just diverge from what we have today.
Yeah. And another cool improvement is the streaming I/O for sequential scans and also for analyze using FAT. Yeah, it's I'm starting improvement towards to the asynchronous I/O.
Mm-hmm.
But actually now it's possible to the read buffers do a advice system call that you read a vectorized, you do a vectorized read on the file system, and it can handle more pages from the file system and improve the throughput,
Mm-hmm.
either for sequential scans and for analyze commands nowadays. So this is a really cool. It's a starting feature, actually. If you look into the release notes, there are some mention about that, but actually this is the first step for a much bigger project towards asynchronous I/O. So this is the starting of this new cool stuff that is upcoming, maybe for 18 or 19, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember some discussion that happened a couple of years ago about direct IO, and especially when IOU really started to become more popular on Linux, and we have some experimentations on those things. But then I just lost. I stopped following the discussion. Not don't remember what it did come to anything, but that definitely would be something cool. But in that sense, we also need to start improving our own buffer pool, right? Because if we start managing those things, what we have today is very fragile. It's very simplistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool guys. We are coming to the top of the hour, so it's been really nice discussion over here. Really nice having you all. I didn't think we would get that long. I thought we would talk around like 30 minutes. You know, yeah, it's fun. Those type of discussions, we usually get a list of a couple of two, three, things that we had on that huge list, and that's where it goes, right? But it was really nice discussion. Thanks once again having you all here. Thank you, Euler. I know you're quite busy guy. It took me a long time to get you scheduled for this call. You as well, Fabrizio. You're laughing, right, Fabrizio?
Huh?
That's true. I'm not joking. And thanks, Dave. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah, we're here for pgconf New York. So for you folks, they're going to attend pgconf New York this year. So if you would like to have a discussion, it would be really nice to meet you. We'll be on Percona's booth starting on Monday. I also going to have a talk on early Monday. Don't remember the time. I think it's around 10 in the morning or 11. Yeah, something like that. But I'll make sure that I'm going to double check, not be late for my own talk.
That'd be good.
Right. So if you want to, really nice to have a talk, have a discussion here. And once again, thanks for our sponsors on pgconf Brazil that's going to happen this year. So I would like to name them again. Thanks for Fujitsu, Timbira, for Linux, Aquasoft, SavePoint, Read Labs, Power Turning, and Red Set. And once again, thanks for the University of Cook in Minas Gerais for having us together. And I hope to see you guys there. It's going to be November 7th and 8th of November this year. So in Belo Horizonte. And next week, we're going to have another one. So as we're having this 1 week is in Portuguese and another week is in English. So this week it was in English, obviously. The next week going to be in Portuguese. And I think YouTube now has this auto translation thing. I don't.
We'll see what it does.
I didn't try it out, especially for the Brazilian Portuguese. We speak really bad Portuguese. We can't really say that we do speak Portuguese, and we have a lot of slangs. I would like to see how Google, YouTube would translate. The AI would like to translate that one. I'm gonna check it out later.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if you guys have a final word, let's start with Fabrizio.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Charly, and thank you, David. Thank you, Euler, to be here. It was a great moment, and looking forward to see you guys on pgconf Brazil, and hope to see you again soon, David, as well.
Yeah, hope so.
Bye bye.
Yeah, we'll be in a few weeks at pgconf Brazil, and I hope to see you, not you, Dave, but maybe next year. So I hope to see you again in a few weeks, and of course, all of our audience too.
Of course. Well, thanks so much. I hope I managed to contribute something, and I hope to see the next one whenever the next one can soonest be.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks you guys from YouTube all over the world.